We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Before Darren gets rolling here, I need to hop in for just a minute. We got carried away in this episode, as we often do, and missed until the very last minute letting you know something important, so we wanted to share it here up front. June is a big month for us, getting a chance to see many of you. On June 17th, we're going to be at Tendy Fest, and on the 24th, in Vancouver as well as online, at Pete Fry, the Goalie Mindset Guy's one-day seminar for goalies, coaches, and parents if you want to come too. Pete, along with a number of pro, NCAA, and major junior goalies, will share all his mindset secrets. He'll give you a chance to practice them in the classroom and in a 1-hour on-ice session at the end of the day. It's going to be awesome, and we're giving all InGoal members a bonus discount as well. Pete has early bird pricing that ends June 1, so head over to ingoalmag.com now to learn more and register. Okay, Darren, take it away.
InGoal Radio, the podcast, presented by the Hockey Shop, source for sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com. We got a good one for you today. I would call him a self-made goaltender. From parts unknown in the goalie world to parts not really reflected on a lot to where he is now, and a whole lot of cool stops in between. Matt Greenfield is going to pop by on the InGoal Radio podcast, and our gear segment today is going to deal with the second price point on the Bauer Hyperlite line as we bring in the co-founders of InGoal Magazine, David Hutchison in his vintage studio and Kevin Woodley in his state-of-the-art facility. Two very different setups for you guys. Yeah, well, look at over your left shoulder. Over your left shoulder, you've got old leather pads, and over Woody's right shoulder, he only collects the custom-made super carbon elite sticks. Like, they're all perfect.
I do. You know what? This means I have to now I have to put up on the wall one of the older ones. I've got a foam core from Dan Cluche, and I've actually got a Ryan Miller wood one signed that needs to go in the backdrop, just so you guys don't think I'm too bougie with my signed carbon. Everything's I am bougie. Okay, all right, we've accepted it.
Nothing signed about those pads over my back shoulder. They're my university gear.
I was gonna think like some dinosaur signed them.
There's a T-Rex behind that.
I was gonna make a before or after.
I'm the only dinosaur.
Like I was gonna make a religious reference, so they were before, but I didn't want to go there. I'll regret that. No, I'm not going there. You know where I will go? How about like Florida to England with ties to Alexander Ovechkin, the Stanley Cup final. I know people hear the name Matt Greenfield, and some people might be like, who? And they got to look up the Hockey DB. Make sure you stick around for the feature interview today, folks. It's a good one. Really good lessons, too, on taking advantage of opportunity, whether that is practice sessions as the practice goalie in the summer, facing guys like Ovechkin, getting on the ice with guys like Craig Anderson and Roberto Luongo and James Reimer, or being a practice goalie for an NHL team during a pandemic. Opportunities that led to pro hockey for Matt Greenfield. He's even got a drill named after him by Robbie Tallis, who is headed to the Stanley Cup final with the Florida Panthers. And I swear, the fact the Panthers are in the Cup final and Matt Greenfield is from Parkland, Florida, and our guest this week is a total coincidence. We've been working on sort of back and forth over the last couple months to get him on. I'm glad we finally did. The timing does work out nicely, but this isn't us trying to exploit the Panthers being in the Cup final. It really is just, as you'll hear in the interview, there are a whole bunch of perfect coincidences and just relationships that we both have, right down to where he played in the BCHL, being where we were on the ice with Robbie Tallis by, again, coincidence, like 7 or 8 years later when we did those videos, including the Matt Greenfield drill. So lots of fun stuff in this one. Make sure you stick around for it.
I just love the fact that he got into it as a weird, goofy, traditional way because his neighbor played street hockey, so he wanted to go out there and do that. And then it spawned this entire journey, which included Canadian University. Awesome stuff with Matt Greenfield, and we have to get, at some point, a little a counter from Hutch on the amount of times, every time Rob Tallis' name comes up. Like, ding, 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 because it's numerous, right?
It would be, Darren, I wish you told me that maybe an hour ago, but I've now listened to the entire interview to edit it, and As much as it was a great interview, I'm not going back to do another another stretch. Maybe at the end, if we could just do a bunch of dings and claim I counted.
Maybe because you're too busy.
That Woody's a bit of a dingbat.
He is. So ring a ding ding in the and it just keeps on just coming through. Like it never stops. It's perpetual.
That's how we met. Like that's how we met. I was down there to do some work with Luongo and Tallis, and Matt was the practice goalie. So. Yeah. And hey, listen, if we're going to ding Robbie Tallis right now, let's ding the fact that we have a whole bunch of congratulations to him. They're in the Cup final. We have a whole bunch of drills from our time on it. We learned a ton when he was up in Kelowna with us at the
Where are those drills,
Net 360 camp, and they're all online at ingoalmag.com. Lots of great tips to get you better. Get yourself a premium subscription to ingoalmag.com, and you can read about all those drills, including the Matt Greenfield drill, which is got a great story unto itself.
Hutch doesn't have time to go back through the interview because you're too busy watching all this action that's taking place between the tournaments, the Stanley Cup playoffs, the World Championships, the Memorial Cup, continue on. Like it is an awesome time of the year to dive into and learn about different goaltenders.
Isn't it though? Best goaltending in the world going on right now. Obviously the Stanley Cup playoffs. I know everybody's watching that. You, Woody, have a great eye on it. I've had a bit of an eye on the World Championship, as have you guys. And we're down to now, as we're recording this, we're down to the last 3 teams. I mean, Latvia still gets to play for a bronze medal. We're going to see either Latvia or Germany guaranteed a medal here. Like what an awesome championship we're watching. Samuel Montembeault having a good tournament for Canada. Somebody I'm watching particularly closely. Haven't watched a lot of Memorial Cup, Darren, because there's only been one game, but did watch that last night as Kamloops and Quebec faced off in the opening game of the tournament. And we got 4 great young starters going head to head in that tournament. I'll be watching a lot of it, and it's always fun to see the young guys. I know, Darren, you know junior hockey way better than I do from all your years, but isn't it fun just seeing these guys perform at this young age and then watch them develop over their careers? You get to know them a little bit and then get to follow where they go. And I'm looking forward to doing that, whether it's, last night, Dylan Ernst and William Rousseau facing off each other. And then we'll see Thomas Milic and Michael Simpson with Seattle and Peterborough tonight. And it's going to be a good time.
I wonder if we'll see multiple goaltenders start in the Memorial Cup the way we've seen games handled in the National Hockey League and the Stanley Cup playoffs with different rotations. Woody?
Probably not in the Mem Cup just because it's a short tournament and you're probably riding your number one, but it has been fun to watch some of the evolving mindsets in the Stanley Cup final, right? Like, do you think that many years ago, as well as even 2 years ago, as well as Freddie Anderson was playing, even after a 5 overtime game, we would have seen a switch to Antti Raanta?
You did.
Well, I mean,
you called it.
I did, but like, I don't think it's a surprise. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Like, but a couple of years ago, it would have been a shocker because I think we're still a ways away from, truly thinking this through on a sort of realistic level. And I'd point to Linus Ullmark, on the fact that he hadn't started that many games at all during the regular season, but then we just expect him to do it in the playoffs. I'd look at Jake Ottinger. I don't think without looking it up, I'm willing to bet he's never started this many games in this period of time as he has in the playoffs, right? And we just expect something they've never done before to be something they can do in the playoffs because you're the guy. And I think sometimes just think about what I just said. Like, that's a little archaic to just expect it. Like, hey, you've never done this before. You've never started this many games in this period of time. But under the most pressure, the brightest spotlight, and this gets missed, the warmest rinks you've ever played in, we expect you to do it now. It seems silly, and yet that's just always the way it's done. And I think more and more teams are maybe starting to rethink that, at least to some degree.
We're going to get a first-time Stanley Cup champion goaltender for the second straight year, too.
Unless, careful, Darren. Careful. Because we've seen stranger things happen. You got a guy on the bench there in Vegas with 2 cups.
Is the backup. You're right about that, and there is the possibility the way that things have
gone a little crazy.
Thanks for keeping me honest on that. That's really good. I hadn't thought
that was quick.
Of all the starters that are currently going, they would be first-time champions. But that is a very solid catch by you, Woody.
Much like when I play goal, I don't catch much, so I'm proud that I got that. And Hutch,
And he's not very quick.
I like Hutch. That's 2 in a row with the quick like puns. So this is excellent. Listen, I'll ask you a question here. If Sergei Bobrovsky wins a Stanley Cup, as much as we probably shouldn't be projecting ahead, but hey, that's what the media does. Is he a Hall of Famer? 2 Vezinas in a cup, 360 wins and counting, climbing that list as well. Is Sergei Bobrovsky a Hall of Famer? Because I don't think up until this cup run, the way things have gone in Florida, that many people would have even asked that question. But you had a cup.
I don't even think it's a question now.
It's automatic?
I kind of think so. As I was saying to you before, I think maybe some people discounted the 2 Vezinas, the first of the 2, because it was in a shortened season. And I'm not saying I did, but I just think people didn't see it on the same level. But now adding to this, it seems almost unquestionable with the career wins. What is it, over 350
360
now? And 360, there you go. And I don't see how it can even be a question.
Yeah, I mean, 420. So like he's basically math is not my strong suit. Like he's basically 3 21 win seasons, which is obviously more than doable. 3 21 win seasons away from moving into the top 10 all time ahead of Tony Esposito. Like to me, I would normally say that's a no brainer, but there's a guy there at 454 and Curtis Joseph who's still not in the Hall of Fame. So stranger things have happened.
Except no Vezina and no cup.
For Curtis Joseph, exactly. And that's why I think when you add those things together, do you not
need one or the other?
Probably. Or in Roberto Luongo's case, multiple gold medals, including one as a starter, right? Because Roberto was on that list and was a first ballot Hall of Famer, a no-brainer, obviously in our eyes as well. But he had no cup and no Vezina. So I'm with you. Like when you look at it now and look back and look at the totality of his work, I think it probably is a no-brainer that Sergei Bobrovsky gets into the Hall of Fame. But and not to mention, who's the guy that started the run on Russian goaltending? Who's the guy that inspired the next generation of Russian goaltenders? Well, okay, now we're getting into a broader discussion. But come on, give me one day. You gave me one, give me 2 today.
Speaking of vintage,
but honestly, like I think it's a no-brainer, and I'm not sure anybody. Again, like we look for storylines while we're waiting for the Cup final to start. I'm not sure anyone was having this conversation prior to this run.
Ivy Bulin.
That's another good one. Yeah, Mickey's up there for sure.
If you're mulling over Hall of Fame worthiness, what's more valuable to a goaltender? Stanley Cup or a Vezina? Because the Vezina, I would argue, is more impactful than any other position, than a Hart Trophy, than an Art Ross forwards or a Norris on defenseman. That Vezina for best goaltender seems to me carries more weight than those other trophies, minus Stanley Cup. So Vezina, a guy's won a Vezina and he's got 400 wins. He's got a Stanley Cup with 400 wins. Which guy do you put in first?
Well, it's a good question because I'm looking at the list and Chris Osgood has 400 wins and how many Stanley Cups, and he's not in.
Yeah, there's a guy. Yeah,
there's a guy. I think he should be. He was
100%. Minutes away from a Conn Smythe, which would have locked it, but he didn't get it. So what carries more weight? The Vezina with 400 wins or the Stanley Cup with 400 wins?
Oh man, talk about putting us on the spot. Marc-Andre Fleury's going to only have cups. And he's got a
Vezina. He won a Vezina a couple of years ago. His last year in Vegas. So
I forgot about, and shame on me for forgetting about that. So any brownie bonus points I got earlier are automatically deducted. So yeah, that's a slam.
That's just karma, baby.
There have to be examples in both directions, right?
Probably are
guys who've won. There's Vezinas that aren't in the Hall.
But I'm just asking, where's your importance on the Cups or the Vezina?
It's probably a Vezina because the Vezina is seen as more individual than a cup.
Yeah.
Especially like now we're looking at cups where like.
Is that ironic because they vote on the Vezina so much by wins? And what's the Stanley Cup about?
Yeah, I know.
Above all.
That's why I said it has the appearance of being more of an individual
won't answer.
award.
Like he's trying to distract us.
Vezina voting is done based on the team and whether it's wins or defensive structure in front of you. That's what gets you Vezinas, but it's seen as more of an individual talent thing. Like multiple Vezinas probably get you in the Hall of Fame ahead of Chris Osgood, for example, multiple cups.
So Bob should already be in the Hall of Fame, like on that track.
Hutch talked about the first Vezina, but 2 Vezinas and 400 wins. Yeah, it should probably do it.
Eric Lindros won a Hart Trophy in a shortened season. I don't hold that against him. So I don't hold a Vezina.
No, I'm just saying I think some people do. I'm not holding it against him either. And there's also the old recency bias, right? I mean, before these playoffs, he's struggled in Florida. And I think a lot of people might have forgotten the Vezinas and then seen the struggles. And now this is making everybody forget.
You never did answer, by the way.
I didn't?
Nope.
No, I waffled hard on that one.
Seriously. Ego.
I need to do some research.
No, you don't. Tell me right now, your eye test. What would you put more stock in? A guy with 400 wins and a Stanley Cup, a guy with 400 wins and a Vezina. Not even giving you names.
Just say Woody's right. Just say Woody's right and go with the Vezina. It's the easiest way
Vezina.
out.
Yeah, I'm Vezina. Woody's Vezina.
That sounds like a research project and an article, Woody. I think we got to do a little looking into how many people are in each of those clubs and in and not in.
I think Osgood should be in.
I agree.
I think
we're a goalie show. We think they all should be.
Cujo should be. Cujo's got the most losses too of all time. I wonder if that works against him at all. But you could make a case that he should have won a Vezina the one year that Olaf Kolzig, don't get back. I hope that doesn't get back to you. But you can make a case that he should have won the Vezina that year or could have won the Vezina that year. It was a finalist, but anyway.
Hey, listen, we gotta take one off of Cujo's label there, Darren.
You're not quite right.
I gotta correct you.
You're not quite right.
The goalie with the most losses in NHL history is also the one with the most wins. Martin Brodeur, 397.
I remember him saying that many times too. Yeah. Little, and number 2 is
Roberto Luongo.
This is fact checking 101 today. Nora Ratu.
Well, if we don't, somebody else is.
Nora Ratu is in the news right now. Great addition to the PHF.
Premier Hockey Federation. Yeah, we had the champions from the Toronto Six on recently. It's about a month ago. Carly Jackson and Elaine Chuli. And yeah, like that's just, hey, listen, more elite goaltending on a stage where we can see it more readily, more often is a good thing for me. I won't get into the politics if there are any between the two leagues because I don't understand them. I'm not going to pretend to have knowledge of that situation, but the chance to see Nora play more, obviously a TV deal in place for that league for the PHF. Like this is good. This is a good thing, regardless. And so wherever things end up in the women's game, I'm happy at the chance to see her play more in North America, not having to wait for Olympics. And as we saw the last time, sounds like maybe some politics or personal preferences on the Finnish national team kept her from the Olympics. We were robbed of that. At least we now get to see her play pro hockey in North America, and I am excited for that because she's one of the all-time greats.
You say you weren't sure about the politics? Or if there was politics?
Oh, no, I don't know the whole story, but between the two leagues. Yeah, no. Yeah. I know there's a whole bunch of stuff. I just don't have an accurate, so I don't say nothing.
I say everything. We've been wrong like 50 times today. So we're
keep going.
Yeah, yeah. We're just double, triple down on this whole thing. I was going to double back to Sergei Bobrovsky about something, but I'm going to put that one to bed. We've got our feature interview brought to you by Sensorina with Matt Greenfield coming up. Cool story. And Google him with images. I love their kit in Sheffield. It's a really cool setup with their colors and the way it goes with the orange. Awesome stuff. But our gear segment brought to you by The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Langley, dealing with Bauer this week.
Yeah, no, we're going to double down on Bauer after last week with the Hyperlight 2, a Hype Tour Light, as they put that 2 in a weird spot for me. Second
really?
Price point.
I didn't know that they did that.
Well, just on the pad, and it was the only thing I didn't like about it. Don't get me into, you weren't here last week, Darren. Yeah. I got on a rant on this. Like, I love everything about the line except where they put the 2 in the Hyper 2 Light, Hype Tour Light. It sounds like a golf thing. Anyways, X5 Pro is the second price point. We've talked a lot about second price points in recent years because the reality is not everyone can afford and not everyone needs, a $2,000 plus set of pads at the pro price point, the top end. And it really is remarkable how much we've seen an improvement in that second price point. The X5 Pro brings a lot of those high-end features, basically everything except that Cortex sort of skin is on this pad. It really is remarkable. We've had a lot of success with testers using it for multiple years and having it, still hold up, especially the pads. So it's a line that we got a lot of questions about. As soon as we launched Hyperlight 2 video on YouTube, I don't say half the questions, but a bunch of the questions below are, when are you doing X5 Pro? Well, here's your answer. We're doing it this week, and we caught up with Cam to talk about all the features that set it apart and make it such a great option for goalies of all ages. I think this is going to be a real popular beer league pad, as well as for youth coming up through minor hockey. The Bauer X5 Pro. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports. Last week we rolled out the Bauer
Hyperlight
2.
Also incorrectly named Hyperlight because they put the 2 in the middle, but
It's still Hyperlight 2, no?
it's Hyperlight.
It's Hyperlight 2. So, as excited as we were, and you all may remember I got a little giddy when we were talking about the Hyperlight 2, I may be even more excited for the second price point. We have had Bauer's second price point products out with testers playing major midget, major bantam, all kinds of different levels, and the durability, the performance of these pads is exceptional, especially when you consider the price. And it looks on the surface like they've continued that with the new line, the X5 Pro. This is the derivative of the Hyperlight 2. So Cam, let's get into it. We'll go through the features that are the same as the Hyperlight 2. Obviously at a lower price point, you're getting a little less. We'll walk you through some of the parts you don't get, what you do get, what makes it great, what you're sacrificing. Cam, let's start with the pads.
Well, I mean, main focus of the pads being first is first of all, the look and the actual profile of the pad itself. So we're still getting that same slimmed down profile that we saw in the Hyperlight 2, continuing off of that 3X pad as in terms of those upgrades. This is just visually a really nice looking pad. It looks like that Pro pad dropped down, which is why they kept that Pro nomenclature actually in the pad itself.
Okay, so looks are great, but I'm about performance. I am a function, not fashion guy. And so the first thing that jumps out to me, and this isn't the first time they've done this, but they've continued the StabilaFlex knee into the second price point. It's not like you just get this feature at the highest price point. And I think that's a significant call out.
Correct. And also one thing that those eagle-eyed viewers might have missed in our actual Hyperlight 2 review is that we didn't talk about the new grip knee that's also been brought down to the... a
little bit of a tackiness to the field to help you sort of not slide off the block.
That's correct, especially with those bigger knee pads nowadays and the integration of those socks. This will help to kind of aid you, keep you planted inside of that knee cradle. So definitely a great feature that's also brought down into that X5 Pro.
Okay, so
opening up the leg channel.
Leg channel's the same in there. You still got the Tune Fit
2.0, but you can change this out to the Tune Fit Plus if you would like easy optional switch, something that is available aftermarket.
We showed you that, obviously, in the Hyperlight 2 video, so make sure you check that out for more details on how to do it. It's pretty easy.
Good.
So what's not the same, it doesn't have the calf plate is not integrated into the face of the pad like the Hyperlight 2, but still, it's still a nice, stable feel.
That's correct.
The biggest thing you don't get is you don't get Cortex on the face of the pad.
That's
this
correct.
is built more like a traditional stitch and or sew and stitch type pad in terms of the face built around the core. So that's one of the biggest.
That's correct. So you won't get as hot of a rebound off. That said, though, these are still going to kick rebounds out decently far for what would be a mid-level pad.
Well, and also you do get, is this the same material on the knee? Help me out here, Cam.
It is.
So that's what we talk about, the sliding that Bauer has been known for multiple generations of pads. That continues down on this lower price point. The other thing that I noticed, like you talked about how thin it was, I actually think there's a little, as much as we're not supposed to flex it this way, there is more flex profile in this pad. I feel like at a beer league level, I know this pad is more than durable enough for that level of play, but I feel like goalies that want an even, as much as Hyperlight is their softer line, I feel like the X5 Pro might be an even softer pad.
So wait. Let's maybe call out something, because you said beer league, right? You're like, okay, maybe your beer league colors don't necessarily line up with what you've got going on in terms of for the stock available options. So what you have the option for is to order custom with these pads. So I can get custom colors, your name on the pad as well. Definitely a major call out for this. You can talk to me more about this personally at 604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790. But again, custom colors
and your name on a
available.
second price point pad.
That's correct.
Wow. Okay. We've talked about performance. You're hung up on the looks. Let's talk about glove and blocker.
Yes.
First thing I notice on the glove is, that nice material inside, that tacky material on the fingers.
Correct.
Not here in the second price point model.
Not here.
Not here.
Not here. But you still get that great overall closure and feel-wise.
Yeah, a little thicker feeling.
Yep.
Maybe a little more.
So a bit of a beef up in terms of the padding, and they also worked on the center rib closure as well from the 3X. So that's one of the upgrades moving into that M5.
It's a nice closing glove. I would say, so why would it be thicker? Why would it be beefier, you ask? Because, of course, it doesn't have their new version of the pour-on material.
No DTC padding in there.
Right. So they need to put more sort of traditional padding in there, which is why it feels a little thicker in the hand. But you're still
Correct.
getting protected, just in a different manner.
Correct. So tight-fitting palm. Overall feel-wise, again, very, very similar to what you would see in the actual Pro blocker as well. Great overall profile. Good overall punch. Definitely something to check out.
Okay, and the last part, once we have something like the new X5 Pro in stock, that means old gear's on sale.
That's correct.
So make sure you check them out at thehockeyshop.com. If you got any questions about this line, how to customize it, of course, the Hyperlight 2 line, or what's on sale behind me, some of it 20% off as the new stuff comes in, make sure you check out thehockeyshop.com or give him a call.
604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790.
Low your roll.
It's up there. Maybe down below. Who knows? Like and subscribe.
Oh, that just gets my heart going for Tendy Fest. Hearing you guys chirp back. I just love it. I'm giddy about it. Probably not going to make it because of things happening in my life right now, going on that look like they're going to extend. Fingers crossed. But on the second price point, can you get all the custom graphics, everything done the same, or is it?
No, there is customization, and you get your name on it.
Get your name on,
which is and there's different color patterns offered. I don't believe that you can't get the full design your own any picture you want type of treatment on those pads, because
that's good to know. That was my curious question.
Yeah, the other one that's come up is people asking if they can get that new Vapor 90 glove. Unfortunately,
that's a custom order.
Yeah, well, it's not. It's a custom order, but it has to be in the Pro line, not in the not in the.
I would say too. The one thing I would say, it's interesting. I think there are going to be beer leaguers that like this pad because of the flexibility. It's got a lot of flex, and it's got a it's not as stiff as the Core-Tech on the other pad. You could, if you wanted, if you really like the pad, you like the price point, you could save money on the pad, and you can order gloves and blockers custom. You don't have to order a whole set. And I would say that that's the other part of this, is that without diminishing the quality of the X5 Pro glove, to me, that's one of the biggest differences. And especially if we talk about durability, the pads that we've had in the past have really held up. If you're playing at a level that requires more protection in the glove, that's where you might spend the extra money out of the whole line. Pads, blocker, second price point. If you're bucking up or you're seeing shots at a certain velocity, the glove being a Pro glove and giving you the option to order a Mach 90 might be the one piece that you could sort of mix and match and blend that way with the X5 Pro line. If you needed to step up in one area, the glove would be the one I would choose.
I think we get too locked into matching sets.
Well, but if you order the glove, you could have the graphic set made to match.
Right. So it works. Even though it's not the same, it's the same. Looks the same. And stuff is reskinned all the time. Half the people have no idea what they're looking at because it's reskinned a certain way, right?
Yeah. Hey,
it presents that way.
Hey, we mentioned his name earlier. You got Jonathan Quick on the bench wearing something that I think is labeled Vaughn V10, and there are parts of that pad that probably go back to Vaughn V2. So, and I don't know exactly, but yeah, for sure. At the National Hockey League level, you see that a lot. So, hey, by the way, for those who have been asking for the Vaughn V10 review, now that we've gotten through the X5, I believe it's up next. Don't get mad at us that we haven't done it yet. We hadn't done it yet because it wasn't at the hockey shop. Now it is. We've done it, and it'll be up with next week's episode, the Vaughn V10 full review.
You think Quickie's going back all the way to the V2?
Some aspects of that pad, the last time I checked, there were elements of that pad that dated back to V2, yes.
Wow. I'm going to ask him that.
Yeah, I guarantee you he doesn't know.
You should.
Really?
I guarantee, I mean, he knows what it is. I guarantee he doesn't know what generation it's from.
Oh,
what
okay,
what a V2, a V4, a V8, or a V10 is.
I know what a V8 is.
Yeah, so do I.
Should have had one earlier before I made all those mistakes.
I was thinking maybe cars, but yeah, okay.
We've got our feature interview brought to you by Sensorina VR. Before we bring in Matt, tell us what's happening over at Sensorina. Woody.
Sensorina with Hutch, not Woody.
Hutch. Sorry.
Just ding, another mistake. We got a whole long line of them today. Great time to get into Sensorina, guys. They've got a sale on now so that you can save, I think it's up to 40% if you go with the annual deal. So it's an awesome time to get into it. Virtual reality is sort of growing and growing and growing in terms of its influence in the tech world today. And it's been with Sensorina now for a while. We've been fortunate to be working with them for a couple of years now and can really say that the training inside Sensorina is a game changer. It's a game changer. It was the day they brought it out, and they just make more and more and more improvements, guys, month in and month out. And now it's its absolute best. It's an incredible training tool because you can get out there and you can face NHL shooters in the virtual training world. You can face PHF shooters like Nora Ratu will be doing in Sensorina as well. You can train all aspects of the game, from shots where you can tell the shooters where to shoot and they will hit their spots every time without dinging one off your dome. They will take you through drills, through common scenarios, power plays. They've got training plans built into it with top level coaches. Some of the people that we love to work with can guide you through using the system to help your training. And now is a great time to be using it. It's summer. There's 3 months until training camp starts, guys. Get out there, put your Sensorina on 10, 15, 20 minutes a day. It will all add up to an incredible amount of time on the virtual ice between now and next training camp, and you will be a better goaltender. It's a great tool. It's available now. Head over to Sensorina.com, use the magic code IGM50, and you will save even more on top of the great sale they have running now.
And you smell better.
That is so true. You don't have to do a bunch of laundry after your ice time. And
you smell better.
Have you guys seen, Hutch, have you had a chance to check out the new update?
Yes.
Where that you can actually tell exactly where the puck hits you. You can go back and check, like at highlights where the puck hits in your glove.
Some puck marks now, yeah.
I like it. I like that idea.
That's how you would know, Woody, if you needed to get that improved, like the full pro glove, or could you go with the second price point? Because yours would be so many in the palm and you'd be running out to buy the pro gloves.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I was thinking about this though, because it goes back to a fascinating discussion we had with Mike Vaughn. So, we were talking about Vaughn and the V10 coming out and Jonathan Quick and what version he's got of his. But I loved when we were at the Vaughn plant. Is this a decade ago, Hutch? It might be more.
Oh, it's got to be.
And
it was very early days.
Explaining how the different breaks in the glove place the pocket in a different position relative to your hand. And if you found you were getting pucks that were hitting, the glove in a certain spot, maybe you needed to change so the pocket was in that spot. And just a great sort of walk through and thought process of how the different breaks, we think about how they close on our hand, but there's also where they put the pocket relative to your hand and how you catch pucks and where you're missing. Maybe a change could help you. And so as I'm watching this, where the puck hit your glove, you can trace it in Sensorina. It made me think about, like, if you are missing in a certain spot all the time, are you maybe not wearing the right break glove, assuming you're bringing your glove that you use into your Sensorina training? And why wouldn't you? If I'm missing a whole bunch, why am I not getting it? Why am I getting all these palm stingers? Like I think there's an actual value here. You could actually translate it into, geez, maybe I do need to think about a glove with a different pocket location and a different break. I am a little over the top geeking out here right now.
No, I'm just waiting, right? Forget the warm-up stick, Darren. Woody's going to be out there scouting every beer league team he plays and he's going to say, oh, we're playing the Steelers today. They tend to shoot a little bit more high glove. I'm switching to the 580 break for this game. And then he pre-scouts the Whalers, and they go low glove, so he switches down to the 600.
It's beer league, dude. They all hit you in the head.
True. I would, with the risk of siding with Woody on the whole warm-up stick,
I've already sided with him.
I might go with the warm-up glove with the practice palm in it, because there's nothing worse than taking a stinger in the palm in warm-up and then having to go through the rest of a game, or you start a practice and you got to go through a whole practice with your just hand throbbing. It's that stings. So I might go the practice warm-up glove instead of the stick.
You know what this reminds me of, Darren? We need to get you into a set of Axis 2 or the new E-Flex with the 581 or 591 glove, because you're still in the original, sort of with the 2 popsicle stick, the original CCM design that permits those stingers. And I certainly haven't experienced them in the new, where the break just has so much less of a gap. So time for us to upgrade you, my friend. Let's get rid of those stingers.
I know. And with such big changes in the technology now, I think people need to come to Tendy Fest to check out those gloves and see what a difference they can make, right? Because everybody gets online and they hop in the comments and everybody cheers for their favorite brand or whatever. But really, until you see it and you try it, you'll never know. So come try it at Tendy Fest. And while you're at it, pretty good chance we're going to have a couple of Sense Arena sets there with us at Tendy Fest as well. If you want to come and give them a try, come visit us there.
That's awesome. Remember, like 4 years ago, we couldn't even go outside. Now we've got Sense Arena headsets there for you to try. This is awesome. Our feature interview with Matt Greenfield. Just give us a bit of a primer before you throw to it.
Well, I feel like I teased this prematurely early in the show because I want to make sure people stuck around. This is a guy who started playing hockey in as you're going to hear, in Florida. Grew up in Florida, got into the game, met before he was the Panthers goalie coach, started working with Robbie Tallis.
Ding.
And they built a great relationship, used that relationship with Robbie Tallis to get an opportunity to be out there for summer skates. He was coaching as a goalie coach in the summer schools for Robbie Tallis.
Ding.
Ding.
Okay, now it's getting a little carried away. But anyways, just a great story of a guy who comes from maybe an area where we wouldn't think about hockey, developing goaltenders. Got a chance to be exposed to some greats on the ice. Like I said, the first time I met him was at a summer skate. He was out there, ironically, was at the University of Calgary already at the time, but he's back home for the summers, and he's out there in a summer skate, and I'm coming off the ice, and he's coming on. And who else is coming on? Some guy named Ovechkin. So had a chance to sort of meet him there, and we've kept in touch a little bit here and there, and now he's playing pro hockey, and it just felt like a great time to catch up. So enjoy the interview, folks. I enjoyed doing it. Matt's a great guy with lots of great insights that I think people will benefit from. Really excited to welcome to the program Matt Greenfield, who is playing over in England right now, but has his roots in Florida, has ties to Robbie Tallis. And I swear this is actually just a coincidence, because Matt and I talked about getting together and having him on the podcast, a while ago, long before the Panthers went on this playoff run. But now we finally reconvene, and Tally's headed to the Stanley Cup final. I first met you on the ice in Florida after being on the ice with Tallis and Roberto Luongo, who's also on his way to the Cup final. And you were just out there in a casual skate facing one-tees from some guy named Alexander Ovechkin. So there's a whole bunch of your background I think we got to introduce people to. But just first off, thanks for joining me. How are things? You're in Calgary now.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm real excited to be here. Yeah, we're in Calgary now. I went to school here. My wife's from here, and so this is now home.
Okay, so for those that don't know, originally from Florida.
Yeah.
Let's start there. Let's just start there. How'd you become a goalie? Where'd the relationship with Robbie Tallis develop? And just walk us through how, what attracted you to the position and how you developed it in the early years.
Yeah, so early on, growing up in Florida, there's not a ton of hockey. My neighbor was from London, Ontario, and he had a kid that was, 4 or 5 years older than me. So I was like 6 or 7. He was like 10 or 11. And they would always play hockey in the driveway. And I always want to just hang out with them because, any kid 4 or 5 years older than you is the cool kid. And I wasn't good enough to play with them, but they were always like, we need a goalie. Here, take this baseball mitt and go stand in that. And that's what started it. So then that was kind of the beginning of the end, as my parents like to say. And kind of just fell in love with the position right away, and was just always begging my parents to play roller goalie, then transition to ice. And around that time, that's when Rob had just finished his playing career and moved to Florida to start his coaching career. And my mom just signed me up for a lesson with him one day, and the rest is kind of history. It's actually a funny story. I don't know if you know how Rob ended up in Florida.
I actually don't.
So when he was finished playing, I think he didn't know where he wanted to live. And I think the story goes, he closed his eyes, blindfolded himself, and threw a dart at the map of the U.S. And he said it landed somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. And Florida was the closest spot. So him and his wife decided to move down to Florida. Yeah.
It's working out for everyone, eh?
Yeah, it worked out for the best for sure. I mean, I couldn't be more grateful. I was so beyond fortunate to have the relationship I have with him, and especially to meet him at such a young age and at a time in his career where he was kind of in between things and really had the time to work with just private clients.
Well, I know he's a massive fan of yours. As a matter of fact, we have a drill at InGoalMag.com called the Greenfield drill that he explained to us at a Net 360 camp one year, based on you being the demo goalie for a drill he developed out of a play, I think, that cost him a goal against the Washington Capitals. So we'll get into that a little bit later. It's funny, I just came from playing at a rink in South Surrey here where Tally played in the BCHL. And as we're leaving, there's actually a picture of him on the wall. So everything's coming full circle with this interview.
No way. I got to go see that.
So I'll have to send you a picture. How old were you as you started? Like you said, you're out there playing, with your neighbors in the driveway. You're playing roller hockey. You're playing ice. Now you meet Tally and you start probably to learn some things that you hadn't learned before. What age are we talking here? Was it when things start to get maybe a little more, I don't know if they were serious, you can tell me, but a little more structured?
I would say I probably started working with them when I was 11, if I had to put a year on it. And I don't know, I was always pretty serious. Like I always kind of wanted to play the highest level I can. And since from a young age, Rob was always very much like a believer and just at people. It was like, you can kind of do whatever you set your mind to. Like, you want to play in the NHL, you can play in the NHL. This is what it's going to take. So that was kind of the way our relationship started at a young age. And that, yeah, so it kind of, when I met him, he was kind of ready to be serious. And I was like, tell me how high to jump and I'll jump. Like, tell me what to do and I'll do it. So it was a real good relationship, and the way it formed was very natural in that way.
What do you remember? I mean, not everyone's going to be familiar with your game. So maybe walk us through, you're playing overseas in England right now, played in the ECHL last couple of years before that, just signed a contract extension to go back to Sheffield in England. Where your game is now, how would you describe it and how it's evolved over time? I'm guessing with a lot of influence from Tally, as much as you've moved on and gone to other places, like, as you said, the University of Calgary for 4 years.
Yeah.
How's your game transformed from those early years to now, and how would you describe it now?
It's definitely transformed. I think the biggest thing with Tally, and most guys that'll work with him, I would imagine would attest to this, is he's so good mentally. And it's just the habits and the way you think and the way you approach the game is so drilled in from him. And that's kind of, I think, the foundation of my game, and everything else kind of stems out from that. So to go back to your question, as far as how I play more of I like to have a foundation and then kind of freelance from that. So I got kind of a foundation of, this is, I want to be big, I want to be set, I want to have my hands in proper spots. And then I want to just trust my instincts and trust my athleticism and my reflexes, and kind of try to paint within the lines, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. When you talk about the mental aspect, and can you give us an example? I mean, everybody listening is a goalie. So is there, whether it's situational or just a mindset you have going into every game, are there any takeaways that you could share that another young kid listening will be like, hey, that would really help me?
I think it's just a quiet confidence. It's knowing that you've put in the work and you're prepared. And if you work as hard as you can, you know you're prepared, you'll be able to go and have success. And it's about knowing that whatever you're feeling, there's a very high probability, almost 100% certainty, that the guy 200 feet away is feeling the same thing. And that everyone's kind of not in it together, but everyone's feeling the same stuff, feeling similar stuff. And, you know, just finding that confidence, that inner belief, and that it's really a choice. Like, I wasn't a very confident kid growing up. And I think that's something that Tally really instilled in me. And the way he made us work, like, I just remember all of the runs to we had a pool that was like a mile and a half away from the rink and the gym. And we'd always have to run to the pool and run back. And he would always be in his car, like, yelling at us. But at the end of the day, it was all like, you do that, it's competition based and everything's kind of high paced, competing. And yeah, just having that confidence that whatever it is, you'll get through it and you know you're going to be okay. And he drills that in you through the way that, through how hard you work, and, you know, like, just being able to, like, having that belief. Like, there was one day I was struggling with my stick saves. I must have been 15 years old at the time. And I was older than that. I was in the OHL, so I would have been like 18. And I couldn't get the puck on my stick and get the puck in the mesh. And he had an OHL shooter taking slap shots at me, and he was so frustrated with me. He grabbed my stick, he was in a tracksuit, went down into his butterfly, and he had the OHL shooter taking slap shots at him. And he was getting a stick on him, and everyone just in the mesh. And he's like, execute, just do it. Like, stop thinking and just do it. And then I got it, and then sure enough, everyone I hit just went right into the mesh. So there's just something like that aura and that inner belief that just being around him so much, it just starts to rub off. You know what I mean? So
you mentioned the OHL. You played a year in Kitchener in the Go JHL, which I'm guessing is either a junior or junior B league. My apologies for that. Okay. Yeah. So played a year there, and also the same year spent some time with Kitchener, and then a second season with the Rangers. That path, that journey from, like, especially back then, you know, we're talking about like 2013, 2012 in that time frame. I'm guessing there's not a lot of teams looking for goalies in Parkland, Florida. Maybe at the NHL, there's a lot of good goalies that have come through Parkland, Florida wearing Panther sweaters, but they're probably not looking for 15-year-olds. How did those opportunities present themselves, and what was that process like? Because that can't be easy. You said you weren't a confident kid. To make a step like that requires some self-belief.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I was really fortunate. So trying to remember the full connection here. But again, like, I owe so much to Tally. Like, so much of this comes from him. So we were working together for years. He thought I was a good goalie. And Pete DeBoer was the coach of the Panthers at the time. Pete DeBoer follow me here. So Tally was the goalie coach of the Panthers. Pete DeBoer was the head coach of the Panthers. Pete DeBoer has 2 kids. The coach of Pete DeBoer's kids were also the coach of my team at U16. I was playing double A hockey at the time, U16 double A. Yeah. And then Pete DeBoer just left Kitchener, I believe. So Rob told Pete, who told my coach, who then had a scout from Kitchener come and watch us in the national tournament. I had a good national tournament, good enough that they liked me, and they ended up taking a flyer on me in the 12th round. And that's how I kind of got into the pool or the stream, or however you want to call it. And then from there, it kind of was more performance-based. But yeah, that's kind of how I got the exposure and how I got seen.
Okay, so 2 years there, and then you go to Tri-City for a year in the USHL, and then my neck of the woods, actually, where again, this is a small world full circle thing, the West Kelowna Warriors of the BCHL for a year, and the rink they play out of is the rink where we shot the video of the quote-unquote Greenfield drill with Tally at a summer camp with a bunch of NHLers and CHLers. So that journey, that bouncing around a little bit at that point from the OHL to USHL to BCHL, you just walk me through your progression through that and some of the decision-making process and you know, how those different opportunities presented themselves.
For sure. So I wasn't a confident kid, and I really struggled with that in the OHL. I didn't handle it very well. I didn't play very well. It's my 20-year-old year. They were kind of like, you know, you can come and maybe back up. But at the time, we had just signed a 18-year-old kid that was on an NHL deal. And then I was like, well, I got to play. So I ended up leaving there. Fortunately, Bill McColt took a chance on me in the USHL. So I went down there to try out for the team, made the team, played well. That was kind of where I first started to kind of find my confidence. I was kind of the older guy. It was a whole new chance for me to kind of write a new slate. To a lot of times, especially growing up and in the OHL, everyone was kind of telling me how to play. And they would tell me, we think you should do this. We think you should do this. And then when I kind of got, I pretty much got released from there, I said, you know what? Like, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down doing it how I want to do it. And so that's kind of where I started to kind of play the game that I wanted to play. And with having success with that, then my confidence started to grow a little bit. And so I went down to the USHL, started off real well, played okay. And then I'm sure you know Jake Kiley.
Yeah. Yeah, I do know Jake. I've met Jake when he was with the Canucks, and obviously know Billy a little bit from, I've covered the Canucks for 20 years. So he was obviously here as well.
Exactly. So Jake Kiley was my goalie partner. And he came, that was kind of his coming out party. He was unbelievable for that team. Like, unbelievable. So Bill calls me into the office one day. He's like, listen, like, I can't have a 20-year-old taking up a roster spot that's not really playing. So he trades me to the BCHL in West Kelowna, which at the time I didn't know was a thing. I didn't know you could get traded league to league, but
I didn't either.
But then it happened. So I was like, oh, I guess this is a thing. So I reported to West Kelowna, and I mean, just an unbelievable group of guys there. Fortunate enough, got traded to a team that was I think we were in third place at the time. And then we just went on an unbelievable run, won a national championship, and then ended up committing to school out of that.
So I was going to say like 938 in the playoffs. I'm looking at the numbers. Obviously, it's not best of 7 all the way. So I'm looking at the win total. I'm like, did you guys go all the way? Like, are those banners when I'm in that rink? You got one of those.
Yeah, we got 3 of them. So it was weird. It was like best of 7, first round, best of 7, second round. And then it was some weird play-in format in the third round. Because there was 3 division winners. So it was like a weird play-in format where you had to win 2 games. And then it was best of 7, third round or fourth round for the finals. And then it was 2 tournaments after that. So it was wild. It was a lot of hockey.
Epic run. And then University of Calgary. Now, we just a couple of weeks ago had Brendan Burke on, who was at the University of Alberta. And one of the stories he talked to us about, like, we were talking about the level of hockey, right? Like, how good Canadian university hockey is, because you had a bunch of guys that played in CHL, that they're older, they're more mature, and some of the teams they beat from the NCAA. What was your experience like at the University of Calgary, both from a development side, but you're also there to go to school as well, student athlete life? What was that like for you?
It was awesome. I think it was really eye-opening. I was very sheltered in the hockey world before that, and I was very much like just NHL or boss, hockey or boss, and then going to university, it's kind of like, oh, whoa, like there's a whole other world out there that there's lots of real cool opportunities and neat things to do, and you meet cool people. So that part of it was really eye-opening and cool. The level of hockey was something I was pretty blown away by. Like I'm sure you talked about with Berkey, like there's everyone there. Like I think I went through our whole team. We had one guy that didn't play in the CHL. Like it's an unbelievable level of hockey. Everyone's just bigger, stronger, faster. It comes with its own challenges, though, because you got some guys that are on their way up and some guys that are on their way down and know that it's the end. So you end up getting a real interesting kind of mix of guys. But as far as the talent, and when puck drops on Friday night, it's fast, it's competitive, it's tough. I think a lot of guys think they're going to come from the CHL and dominate, and more times than not, that's not how it goes.
So, and actually, I want to rewind, actually, because I wanted to get into a little bit about that, but I kind of missed a little thread there I wanted to pull on a little bit. You talked about multiple voices and different coaches as you're bouncing around OHL and into the USHL a little bit, telling you to do it a certain way, and then sort of coming back and doing it your way. And obviously, you'd spent a lot of time with Rob Tallis. You had some faith in how he had taught you. How tough a balance is that for kids? And is there any advice you would pass along? Because you go to a new team, and this happens at younger levels too, and a coach is like, hey, do it this way. I want you to do it this way. And you got to impress the coach. You don't want to tell him, hey, bugger off, I got my own way. But you also have to sort of stay true to your foundation. How'd you, it sounds like that was a tough line to walk for you in the early years. And is there any lessons you can pass along to others about how to manage it?
Yeah, that was really tough. I think that's the main reason why I struggled is like I said, it was a huge blessing to be so close with Tally for so many years, but it was also a bit of a curse in the sense of I'm so used to having an NHL goalie coach that I could just pick up the phone and call it and say, hey, what do I do in this situation? Or, hey, like, do I RVH, do I VH, or do I play the puck with one hand on my stick, with two hands on my stick? And then I go to the OHL and like, no, you have to do it this way. I'm like, well, I haven't done it this way my whole life. And then they're like, who's this 18-year-old kid from Florida that's talking back to us now and is uncoachable and all that sort of stuff. So it's something that I really struggled with. And I think the biggest advice I can get is whether your coach is right or wrong, like they're right because they're your coach. And you kind of have to do it this way, or at least try to do it that way. And then maybe go have a tactful and smart conversation and say, hey, like, I really tried it this way. I feel more comfortable doing it this way, but you only kind of get so many of those. Like, you can't really do that about everything. And I think I was a little closed-minded on a few things. And I think you really need to be open-minded as to, yeah, this way might have worked. And maybe this way worked at the level I was playing at, but now I'm at a new level and a coach is telling me to do it a certain way. You got to try it. And like, to fast forward a little bit, like we talk about the panda and stuff. Like when I heard of the panda, I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And then, but I was like, you know what? Like, try it, be open-minded about it. And I love it now. So like just little stuff like that, I think is if a coach is telling you something, like they're your coach, they decide your ice time. It's ultimately like they're your boss. You got to do what they say. And whether you like it or not, you got to kind of believe in it. And if it's really that big of a deal, then go and set up a time and have a talk about it. But for the most part, I would say you got to kind of listen to your coach.
Okay, so now I got to ask about the panda because we had an article on it. And I'm like, okay, so is this you? Because we actually have had guys that tried it based on reading our article. Hell, we had a kid, I don't think Dustin Wolf, who was the subject matter of our article, loved the fact that it was a Canadian that read it on our website and then integrated it and won a gold medal at the World Juniors the next year. But I, for a second there, I'm like, hold on, did he read it? But then I remembered you were there. You were one of the goalies that we had video of, I think, because you were up with the Stockton Heat, I think, at the time. So you were there with. So again, walk me through. Like, you're working with Wolfie, it's working for him. You got a goalie coach who again is now in the National Hockey League with San Jose, introducing this to you. That process of not for me to, hey, this works for me. How'd you go through it? Like, just walk us through sort of getting there.
So I remember it was training camp, and as a guy on a 2-way contract in an organization that had like 7 or 8 goalies signed, I was like, I got to make an impression here. Like, I got to kind of make an impression. And then Spearsy comes along and he's trying to teach me the panda on like day 3 of camp. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to, because I don't want to get scored on because I tried something new. But like I said, he's my coach. I'm like, you know what? Like, let me try this thing. And I went down and I just butterflied and pucks just kept hitting me. I'm like, oh my goodness, maybe this guy's onto something. It's like, maybe he knows what he's doing. He's worked with Wolfie and that turned out pretty good. So I was like, maybe I should listen to him. And then I went down and I started to do it. And I was like, this is unbelievable. And I think just being open-minded and just being like, yeah, maybe I'm going to fully try this, not go through the motions and be like, oh yeah, not for me. Like committing to it and trying it and trying to learn it. Cause like I said, he's the coach, he knows best. And I did it, learned it. And now I probably overuse it. I use it so much. I love it.
Well, that happens a lot with a lot of post-play stuff, right? Like we rep something, we like it, we rep it out to the point where maybe it can become too much of a habit in the wrong situation. Like that's sort of, we've seen it with, like I'm old enough to remember when it happened with VH and then RVH and, now every other, iteration of it. Just because we've talked so much about it here at InGoal and because we had that article, what do you like about it and what situations do you like it specifically for?
I like it specifically when, especially if it's a good shooter on the other team and he has speed and time and there's no other threats. So if I know that,
like a rush chance down the
wing.
The
rush. Yeah. The guy's coming off the rush, especially if he's on a strong side. I know that, okay, I could just hold my post here, drop down, be big, and he's got nothing. And then it just takes away threat. It calms me down, especially in those moments in games where you're like, okay, I can't give one up here. Like it's start of a period, start of a game, end of a game, like those big kind of moments where you're like, it's not the time to take a risk. I'm gonna just go down, be big, take this away. If he wraps and throws out to someone else, I'll live to fight another day. But I think it's specifically moments where you got guys kind of on an island, guys by themselves, or guys with speed when you have defensive support. So if you have support coming down the middle to that near post, and you got a guy coming with speed to the outside, just drop, and you know you're going to take everything away. And more times than not, they'll either bury it right into you because they'll panic, or they'll try to beat you to a wraparound, which is what you want them to do because the push is so easy to get back to that far post.
Yeah, and so obviously you have to flatten out a little bit. Otherwise, if you just square up in a butterfly in an overlap, that's where that's where you're exposed on the wrap.
Right, 100%. So you just flatten out a little bit. The way you can kind of feel your shoulder, like in kind of the middle of your spine, kind of halfway between your spine and your shoulder blade. Just feel that against the post, a nice little lean, and just wait for him to get past half net, and then it's a straight line push as opposed to, if you're too flat or too far on the angle in the overlap, now you got to rotate and push. Within the panda, you just flat and you just put your right leg up, grab an edge, and you're right to the post.
Yeah, it's a big rotation if you're squared up to a guy, coming down the wing and he gets deep in the zone.
Yeah, and then you run the risk of the bank off your back and all that sort of stuff. So I think flattening out is a major part of that.
Well, your game really started to take up. I mean, obviously you had success at the University of Calgary, but you're in the Calgary organization with Kansas City. Like I said, I saw you in the American Hockey League, didn't get a chance to play with Stockton, but you were up with them. Is that opportunity to turn pro? Like you're at the University of Calgary, you're working about school, you're probably focusing on other things, but also hockey. Were you still aiming for a pro career? Did that opportunity, how did it present itself? Again, I'm guessing because you're in Calgary and probably that staff got to watch you there.
Yeah, so it's actually a funny story. So when I was in school, I probably tried to leave every single year I was there because I was like, I'm going to play it for a year, then I'm going to go try to get an AHL 2A and prove myself pro. And then after my fourth year at school, I didn't have a good year. And for those that don't know, you get 5 years of eligibility in U Sports. So I had another year left. And I was like, okay, let me just come back for my last year and then I'm going to go. And then what ended up happening was COVID obviously happens.
Right.
So the Flames are getting ready to go into the bubble. But I think at the time it was Markstrom and Riddick were both still home in Europe. So the Flames needed a practice goalie. So they pulled me out onto the ice with them. And I went and skated with them and did that. Then this is after the bubble. This is after the bubble before the late start in the season.
Right. Okay.
So before the late start when they started December, whenever it was that year.
Yep.
So I practiced with them and I was fortunate enough, turned a couple heads and they're like, yeah, let's throw this kid down on the coast and see what happens. And unfortunately, Andrew Shortridge got hurt and that opportunity presented itself where Kansas City needed a guy on the coast. So the timing, I mean, obviously it was super bad luck for Shorty, but that job opened up and I was able to go down there and that was kind of the beginning of my chance.
And posted some really good numbers down there. 916 save percentage in the ECHL, a game that can be a little more like you're playing in Calgary at university, a game that's probably a lot more controlled than people would expect because the experience of the players in that league, like you said, out of the CHL for 4 years, they're older, they're more mature, they play a more controlled game. East Coast can be a little scrambly. Was that a big adjustment? Scrambly is the wrong word because that has a negative connotation. A lot of young players, it can be a game of mistakes as a goalie. It's hard to make clean reads because things tend not to go as planned as often.
I actually found the adjustment a little easier. I think one of the things that they were big on in Canada West for university was puck possession. And I remember playing against U of A and some nights they'd have 18 shots and 5 goals. And you're like, I actually
played
I don't
good.
know what really, yeah.
Yeah.
And all 18 are just grade A chances. Same thing with Sask. And then you get down to the coast and like you said, it's more scrambly. Guys get the puck on their stick and they're throwing it at the net. And so having that kind of steady action, I was like, I like this. I was like, this is fun. And so that was at least my mindset was like, this is more suited to the way I play. Like, I love feeling on the puck. I love, like, we weren't very good in Kansas City, but I kind of relish in the fact that, like, if we win or lose, like, it's kind of on me. So, like, it was an opportunity to go down, get lots of shots, and try to steal a couple games.
Do you have to have that mindset? Is that part of being a goalie? Like, can you survive as a goalie if you don't want to be the guy that it can, the game can turn on?
Yeah, I don't think so. Like, I think it's just kind of something that comes with the territory, right? Like, a lot of times you hear basketball players talk about, like, wanting to take the last shot or not wanting to take the last shot. And in basketball, you can pass. And, like, you could just fit into the shadows. There's no doing that in overtime or with a minute left as a goalie. Like, you're front and center with a lot of the times at that moment. Like, if you win, you're going to be in the paper celebrating. And if you lose, you're going to be with your head down and the puck in the net on the front page the next day. So it's kind of, you're forced into it. And like you said, you either kind of sink or swim.
Part of when we met, obviously, was before a Panthers training camp. So there early, I think it was Lou, Reimer, and Tally on the ice. And then there'd be a pro skate. But this wasn't just a pro skate. This was a pro skate that, like, I'd covered the league for like 17 years at that point, and my eyes were popping open at the names that came to that pro skate. You talked about getting a contract opportunity and turning pro based on turning heads as a practice goalie for Calgary. What was your approach in those, wide open shinny hockey, but hey, that's Alexander Ovechkin coming down the wing? How'd you approach those opportunities? When did it start for you? When was the first time you got to get out there with that Florida group?
I was very fortunate because growing up in Florida, there's slim pickings for goalies because you got Lou down there for a billion years and he's not going to that. Then you got
he was off the ice early for those, yeah.
Yeah. He does his drills with Tally, takes a couple warm drills and gets off. Then you got Craig Anderson down there, who's also like, he'll come out towards the end of the summer, but that's about it. And then outside of the because I don't think most of the AHL guys were living in Florida would come down that early. So there was kind of not many options. So I got thrust into it at a young age. And
how old were you when first time you got out there? Ballpark.
Yeah, probably like 18, 19, I would say.
Okay.
Like pretty young.
And I mean, it reminds me of the one in Kelowna that used to have like Weber and Price, and it's like a freaking all-star game out there, man.
Yeah, it is. I remember the one day you were there because Ovechkin only came a handful of times, but I remember the first time he came out. And because the pros had their dressing room and then we had our dressing room just normally. And somebody's like, yeah, Ovechkin's out there. And I was like, haha, like, good one. And then we get on the ice, or we go out, and we would always try to be early. And Ovechkin sitting by himself on the bench, like, dead serious, ready to go, like 10 minutes before this game. I'm like, oh my goodness. But to answer your question, I always treated those like they were game 7 for me. Like, I really did. Like, I always treated those as that, like, hey, like, this is my opportunity. Like, you never know who's watching you right now. Like, go out there, give it everything you got, follow every rebound, don't take a shot off. Like, I don't care if it's Ovechkin, he's not scoring. Like, have that, like, and that's something that also bred confidence. We talk about how I found my confidence later. That was a big factor in it because I remember I went on the ice once with a bunch of the Winnipeg guys. I was goalie coaching at the time and I wear contacts. This is actually a bit of a funny story. I wear contacts and when we would goalie coach Rob, I was working for Rob and he would make us wear half gear when we would coach so we could demo drills and stuff. So I had my gear at the rink, but I wasn't taking any shots and my vision's not terrible, but it's not great. But I don't need my glasses to perform day-to-day tasks, but I need them to play hockey. But I had my contacts in. And all of a sudden, right after our skate, a bunch of the Winnipeg guys get on there. So like Scheifele, Ehlers, Wheeler, and Chuba, I think, all popped on the ice.
Yeah, heard of them.
Yeah. And they needed a goalie. And then, so I was fortunate enough. I was the old guy at the time coaching. I'm like, I'm going. So I popped out there with no contacts with those guys and just flung my glove and my blocker at a few pucks. But no, and then Adam Oates was the coach there. And I always treated those though, like even without contacts, like I was like, I don't care. Like I'm stopping the puck. Like didn't matter, like whatever it takes and just try to turn someone's head. And the best case scenario, I turn someone's head. And the worst case scenario, I just push myself against the best guys in the world. And my mindset was if I could do it against these guys, I could definitely do it against the guys I'm playing against.
I mean, Ovechkin's a pretty premier name. Are there any others that I'm missing? Because I do remember as we got off the ice, because I was there with Roberto and with Tallis and with Reimer, and so when they finished, I would normally be leaving to go talk to them about the drills and cut video. But I just remember guys pouring out on the ice, and I stuck around a little bit because I was just, again, like I'm 17 years in covering the league. My job is to talk to these guys on a regular basis. So there's not much that feels like wow, but I was like, wow.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I know like Zadorov's always down there. Pacioretty was down there for a little bit. All the Panthers. So whoever played for the Panthers, like Jason Demers was always out there. And then obviously like Ekblad and those kind of guys. But yeah, a lot of the Panthers guys and a lot of former Panthers would stick around and come to those skates. I'm trying to think. Maybe too many shots to the head. I can't really.
Well, too many big names. It's hard to pick one out.
Yeah.
Did you ever e-bug in Calgary? You did the practice goalie thing. Did you ever do the e-bug thing when you were with the University of Calgary? Because I know here in Vancouver they use the UBC goalies from U Sport to sort of man that role as well.
So my first year in university, they used us, but I was low man on the totem pole. So my buddy Steve Stanford got to do it instead of me. And then when he did it, I don't know if you know Coleman Volrath, the name. He played in Victoria.
Yep. Yeah, I know the name.
So then he ended up just going after we were the same age after our first year in school together. He ended up quitting hockey and just doing school. And then he was the Flames e-bug for probably the next 3 years after that. And then I just kind of lucked into the practice opportunity, honestly.
That's awesome. But again, there's lessons here about making the most. It reminds me a little bit, we had Paris O'Brien on it was a while ago. Got invited to like some random practice, same type of thing, like e-bug opportunity, and ended up with him in the KHL and representing China at the Olympics, right? Like just from hey, we need a target. And if you approach it the right way, you can open some eyes and turn some heads and opportunity can follow. So it sounds like a similar lesson for you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I went to those practices and the guys were awesome. Like Dubé was out there every time and like Michael Stone. And
he can shoot.
Yeah, he can shoot. He's I've cursed his name under my breath a few times. But like Rasmus Anderson, and like one thing that was really cool for me is I was skating with these guys, and after that summer of COVID, I've been skating with them ever since. And last year, 2 years ago, it led to an NHL training camp opportunity for me, just based on those guys going to the GM being like, hey, like, let's give this guy a camp at least. So just like, you just never know who's going to be willing to stick their neck out for you, and you never know who's watching. And yeah, like anytime you're on the ice, like just it's cliche, but
summer skates too. Like guys want it. They want a goalie that's trying, right? Like I've been around goalies that maybe don't, right? Yeah. Like or aren't trying as hard, or because hey, like the veteran NHL guys, like you said, they don't want to be there all the time, but the shooters want somebody who's putting an effort in, so you can make an impression that way.
Yeah, for sure. And it makes everyone better. Like if I'm giving up goals I wouldn't normally give up in a game, and these guys are scoring goals that they shouldn't be scoring, it's not creating good habits for anyone. So by them trying and then by me reciprocating that effort, it just kind of is like a rising tide lifts all ships. And it's something that, really makes everyone better. And yeah, to me, it's a must in summer skates.
Okay. So last chapter here, currently being written. How'd you end up in Sheffield last season? Walk me through that opportunity, that transition. And it just sounds like you really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've loved it. So after last season, I was really hoping to get an American League opportunity during my last season where I signed my two-way. Wolfie's there, and Wolfie's unbelievable. So he's playing every game, and short of somebody getting injured, there was no opportunity for me. So at the end of the 2021-2022 season, I was a little bummed that I didn't get a game. And my agent at the time was wanting me to go back and do another year and of the same thing. And my wife was kind of like, I don't want to be moving around. We got to make some money. Like, let's kind of move in a different direction. I was just like, yeah, like, I think you're right. I think you're right. But it's hard to kind of look away from the NHL for a little bit.
Understandable.
And I was okay. Yeah, let's go explore Europe. So I told my agent I want to go to Europe, and we were looking at teams, and a few things excited me and fell through. And then a few things didn't really get me going, or I didn't think we're going anywhere. I thought would be there if I wanted them at the end of the summer. And then at the 11th hour, like I think a week before we ended up leaving, Sheffield called and was like, hey, we kind of need a 1B goalie. Like, we got our 1A, we're looking for a 1B. Are you interested? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And because I knew Sheffield, I knew how it was such a high budget team. I talked to former players, and everyone there just had nothing but awesome things to say. So I was like, you know what? It was actually gonna be less money than what I was offered in other places. I was like, let's just do it. Have 1 year of living in Europe on a high budget team. We're gonna be at the top of the table. Like, let's go for it. And again, like, and this is it's unfortunate to say out loud. I feel like I'm saying it a lot. It's kind of the way hockey works. Like, my goalie partner's doing a squat jump and his pinky gets caught in his shorts, and he has the most unfortunate injury of all time and breaks his hand. But that leads to me playing every single game because there's no other option. And then I play awesome and run with it. And
920 during the regular season, hell of a run.
Yeah. So they
36 and 17, like, just heating.
Yeah. No, it was awesome. Like, we were like, everything just kind of just one of those years, like, short of winning a championship, which is obviously a disappointment, but everything just kind of seemed to fall into place. And it was kind of like the pitcher lob went up for me and I hit it pretty far. So it's worked out real good, and yeah, happy to be going back.
Excited to be going back. Get a contract extension. You said this is the first time first time ever you've had a contract. I think you signed it in March.
First time ever. I signed mid-late March, and to just be able to know where I'm going to be going and playing and living, and being able to kind of prepare and set like specific goals and that stuff is it's real exciting. Like I said, I've never had that before. The closest thing is I signed my 2-way pretty early, but then you don't know if you're going to be the AHL or the ECHL. You don't know who else they're going to sign. So it's a bit different, but a
lot more uncertainty in that situation.
Oh, for sure. The coast is if you're not an NHL dealer, coast can be a bit of a grind.
So Sheffield and heading back, like, and the injury, like, there's also lessons here, right? Like, whether it's how you approach a practice opportunity or being ready for, like, you're right. Freak injuries happen, and you never want to see it happen, but they do. If you're not ready to take advantage of that opportunity, it means nothing.
100%, like 1000%. Like, it's at the end of the day, like, you need to get a little lucky and have an opportunity present itself. But once it does, then it's on you. Like, it's 100% on you to run with it and to make an opportunity, make a name for yourself. And if you don't have an opportunity, like in a practice situation, like, go create an opportunity. It was a fun thing to do, but how many practice goals do the Flames have out in a year? You know what I mean? Like, go and create an opportunity, and then you got to execute when it counts. And that's kind of, I think that's the moral of the story, is you never know when your opportunity is going to come, and you kind of got to always be ready when that opportunity does come. Like, run like hell and never look back.
Game 7 mindset for practice. Exactly.
And then talk about building confidence. Like, for me anyways, like, this is a cliche, but if you treat every game like it's the biggest game of your life, and the biggest game of your life, it's just another game. So it's like you're constantly playing under that pressure. It's okay. It's nothing new now, and it's for real. So it's something that I found a lot of success in personally.
Okay. Last one for you. How close are you watching as a guy who grew up in Parkland? As much as you're not there anymore, like, how close are you watching? And I guess I should ask, like, I'm trying to think, cause you were in Calgary. I can't remember how often I can't remember the last time you were back there for those summer skates. So I'm trying to figure whether there would have been any overlap with Bob.
No, there was no overlap with Bob. Bob came. So my last summer there was when they signed Bob. And then Bob didn't get down there until
later. Yeah, because Bob had Europe and he worked up with a Red Bull team in Salzburg. And yeah.
So I haven't skated with Bob at all. But no, to answer your question, I wear this whoop that tracks my heart rate, and I would have just thought, I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. But just to see, like, I don't know, like the way that rink is, like going to games, that rink was getting 6,000 fans, 7,000 fans. They were not terrible enough that they were trying to suck and not good enough to ever make the playoffs. And it's kind of the laughing stock of the league. And to see the way that played, the whole community, like I listened to a podcast the other day that I used to like because they were South Florida sports, but they never talked about hockey. The entire hour and a half was about hockey. I'm like, this is unbelievable. And I'm just right on the edge of my seat with every shot now. It's awesome.
I think one of my favorite parts was when they completed the sweep and the players come on the ice and they're touching the trophy, was seeing Tally in the background with the Eastern Conference Championship hat, and obviously getting to see Lou celebrate in the press box. So I think for both of us, we'll wish that it continues and continues for more celebrations for Parkland, for fans of Florida, and for some of the friends we both have on those teams. So, hey, listen, Matt, this has been awesome, and I really enjoyed catching up with you. I'll make sure we'll put it in the show links for everybody that's listening to this, so they can go check out the Greenfield drill with Robbie Tallis, as well as him helping with us with the demonstration in practice one day of the Panda. So, Matt, thank you so much for this. Best of luck in Sheffield next year, and I look forward to keeping in touch. It feels like we keep running into each other, I think, and it's always good timing, and there's always these connections. It's really much enjoyed on my end.
Yeah, feelings very mutual. Thanks for having me. It was a blast, and really looking forward to staying in touch.
I turned it on. I was doing some stuff around the house, and happens all the time when I get these interviews that you tend to be before we pack the show. And I actually sat down with this one and wanted to make sure I was dialed into it. Just all kinds of twists and turns. I liked when he said, my girlfriend, we got to go earn some money. We got to go do some stuff. And he was honest. He tried to go pro every year at university. Tried to figure it out and get down a path. And he was upfront with his successes and enjoyed those, but also very honest with the setbacks.
Yeah, no, there's a lot there. Dealing with and not dealing with it properly at times. The idea of we've talked about this many times, changing teams and getting a new goalie coach and having a new voice and being asked to do different things and how you manage that. For Matt, a bit of a unique challenge because he grew up his whole life with a guy who's an NHL goalie coach helping him out. And I forgot to talk about this, just a great excuse for a part 2 with Matt down the road. But now he's in Sheffield playing in the English Pro League, and he doesn't have a goalie coach. They don't have full-time goalie coaches over there. And so a lot of managing your game is about managing your own game and setting up your own drills. And it's actually a topic that I wish we'd gotten into because there are great lessons there as well, because we don't all get that during the season. So how do we manage our own game? How do we, do we ask for drills at the end of practice and get shooters to line up and pay attention to the details of how we need to move and things like that? And so there's some great lessons from him there that we'll dig into, maybe even with some video during the year from Sheffield. So really enjoyed it. Lots of different lessons. As I said, maybe not a name that people are familiar with, but a story you can benefit from hearing. And I really appreciate him taking the time to share it.
How about the image of Robbie Tallis
in
his tracksuit on his knees making stick saves?
Yes.
What a great story. I wish I could have been there for that.
Yep. Absolutely. And then I thought I didn't mention it, but as he talked about now that when he's coaching or when he was coaching for Rob, they all had to sort of have half gear on and have pads on. And I wanted to say, why? You weren't confident demonstrating stick saves without a pad behind it?
That was awesome. The idea that somebody would do that was like, what? That image in my head, like, no chance.
Imagine if you miss an OHL slap shot, the guy just gets it a little off the ice and it's flush off the shin. You'd be on crutches.
Got a great photo of local Vancouver coach Angelo Maggio, who played a little pro over in Italy, at a camp doing exactly the same thing, except he wanted to make a glove save. So he borrowed 2 gloves and a stick from one of the guys in his tracksuit and had one of the shooters start going for the glove, and he pulled out a 1970s toe up, heel down glove save. Just beautiful.
Well, see, but
great moment.
But you can do it 1970 style, because the reality is the gear sucked back then, so everybody was moving their entire body out of the way to make a glove save.
Not wrong. You're not wrong.
That's primarily what's changed in the game.
Sure is. Hey, lots going on over at the site these days, eh, Woody?
Yeah. It's funny because I'm an idiot, but we talked a lot about Bob and about his run to the Cup final and the Hall of Fame and all those things. A lot of talk about Bob's stick. Henrik Lundqvist did a great job with the unique paddle grip. We had an article on our old site about that, so we rehashed that with quotes from Bob explaining why he has his stick paddle done that way. CCM offers it as an option for pros. And guess what? He's not the only one that grips it like that has that sloped shoulder. We've seen it. I was at a meeting.
But that's the point what you just said there, Woody, is how he grips it. Like, everybody's gotten excited about what it looks like, but don't forget how he's holding it.
Yeah, and we've got images up there that date back to his Columbus days where he's sort of turned to us so you can see the back of the hand that shows just how he's choking down on that. Other guys have imitated it. Ilya Sorokin uses a sloped shoulder paddle in that grip, and we have
a picture of him doing that too.
Yeah, and we got quotes from Semyon Varlamov, who also does it, where he's got that sort of choke down, and he really likes, again, it shortens the stick, which is a trend we've seen throughout hockey, like let's have our stick sized more to the butterfly than being on the ice when we stand up, per se. And there's a lot of benefit. Like, at the end of the day, it's not just the stick and the stick grip. Like, the way Bob prioritizes, that's the thing. The glove doesn't have to worry about a stick. The blocker does. You're sort of taking care of two things. You're taking care of your coverage with your blocker and your coverage with your stick. And when and how you prioritize each thing affects how you play. And Bob, on a sliding scale of stick to blocker, prioritizes the coverage and the squareness of his blocker over his stick at times. And we've seen it on 2-on-1s. They used to practice this in Columbus. We've got video of it, where if it's a big move to the blocker side and he's extended, he will drop that stick as he's going across to
He did it the other night against Carolina.
Yeah, to free up the blocker so it's unencumbered to square up and make a save. It doesn't have the weight of the stick. There's no chance the stick hits the post as he goes, it just frees up the blocker to make a blocker save. Now, on 2-on-1s, I've seen them practice not just dropping it, but where they drop it to make sure the stick lies in the middle of the ice as they come across, just in case that guy on their blocker side catches it and tries to pass back the other way. There's a chance it'll hit the stick. So there's, as always, with goalies that think the game at a super high level, and Ian Clark was the goalie coach there. Bob dropped the stick before Ian, but I'm not sure that purposely placing it was something he did before Ian.
Roger Nielsen.
Those kind of details. Yeah, those are the kind of things that I love. So it's awesome.
What's the Roger Nielsen touch?
I don't know the goaltender of the game. I can't remember that part, but the story is that he pulled a goaltender at the end of a game to try and get that tying goal, but instructed him to leave his stick behind along the goal line to prevent any empty net goals. Now
that's the story I remember. Yeah.
And I think there's 3 or 4 rules in the game of hockey attributed to Roger Nielsen's genius.
Just so bright. And Bobrovsky with that same idea of just taking opportunities and using them to your advantage. And if you're going to slide across, why not drop that stick in a strategic place? Now, a lot of people just need that stick for comfort too, and would never be in a place where they could do that and feel good about themselves.
Well, you don't want to be doing it all willy-nilly, dropping it all the time and not have your stick, but it's purposeful. It's in certain situations, like we saw the other day on Aho, where he got caught reaching with a little bit of an over-aggressive poke check on the glove side with the stick. And in order to get across fastest, what am I going to do? Can I get my blocker across faster with a stick in my hand or with a stick not in my hand? So he drops it, gets across, and makes, again, a potentially momentum and game-saving save.
Is it speed or is it there's some flexibility and range in that as well, right?
I've heard him and Korpisalo both talk about it in both terms. I know Korpisalo talked about, hey, like it, and this has changed because back when they first started doing it, they had foam core sticks. They weren't as light as they are now, but there was an element of, hey, like not carrying that blocker in my hand as I come across makes that hand that much lighter.
That's the physical part of it. Between the ears, we got some good stuff happening right now, Hutch, with Pete Fry.
Yeah, no kidding. In terms of taking advantage of opportunities, Darren, we've got a great opportunity coming up in Vancouver and online. There's a one-day seminar with Pete Fry, the goalie mindset guy. And that's coming up on the 24th of June. And if you are in the Vancouver area, or we've had people come from quite a distance to spend the day working with Pete, and a whole bunch of high-level goaltenders are going to be there. I think there's one pro, Dylan Ferguson, is going to be coming. We've got about four. Well, actually, Roman Bazran has played some pro games this year as well. We've got 3 or 4 different Western Hockey League goaltenders are going to be there. But then you're welcome, whether you're a young up-and-comer, whether you're a beer leaguer. Parents enjoy the work with Pete. So you can come and learn how to make mindset, take advantage of your mindset, helping you become a better goaltender, as so many people that Pete has worked with have done over the years. It's a fascinating, hands-on, get yourself busy. We're not just listening to Pete talk. He's got exercises every 20 or 30 minutes where you're on your feet doing things. And then this year, we're going to take it onto the ice at the end of the day as well, guys. So it's a fantastic day. Again, I said in Vancouver, but you can also join us online. And if you are an InGoal Premium member, there's a $25 discount on the seminar as well. So if you're a member, head over to InGoalMag.com, take advantage of it. If you want to spend the day with Pete, you might as well join InGoal, because half of your membership fee is going to go towards this seminar already. Just a great opportunity, and really excited that we've got a lot of cool stuff coming up here, guys, in the next little bit, right? It's going to be Tendy Fest over in Vancouver, and then just a week later, it's going to be some time with Pete Fry as well. So lots of great stuff happening, guys.
I love Pete Fry. Gets right into your mind and makes you rethink some things, or tweaks how you handle things. And it can help you in all kinds of different situations, which is fascinating. And I love the fact that the ongoing challenge with Woody continues. Pete versus Woody.
Pete gets into my mind, and that's worse than the time the bear surprised him in the woods. Yeah, it's a little scary up there right now. It's a bit of a jumbled mess, but he's straight in feet. You know what? Hutch isn't kidding. You guys aren't kidding. It's not just about performance on the ice. Pete has helped me with a few things off the ice as well. So lots of benefits there.
Before we go, what's happening over on the website?
Well, we talked about the Bob article. We got new pro reads up. We have Jarl Halak this week. We had a great one with Thatcher Demko the week before. Really, he was really into it. Yeah, he does. Like, I feel like he's really good. Yeah, like I feel like I want to just run him out there every week, because he doesn't just explain the read. He gets into the technical details of how he executes the save and why he prioritizes certain coverage. Right down to alignment in reverse VH. And he's quickly one of our favorites. So we're trying to limit it. Once a month, you get a Thatcher Demko one. Reminder, folks, InGoalMag.com. If you're wondering what the hell we're talking about, we sit down and do a video session every week with an NHL goaltender reviewing saves and their reads, so that you can sort of see how they think through the game and see if there are tips that can apply to you no matter what level you're playing at. And so we got a new one up there with him. We got a new one up there with Jaroslav Halak, another guy who's approaching 300 wins in the National Hockey League and has a ton of great knowledge to share. We've got a drill, Artur Silovs, Hutch mentioned, Latvia, going to play for a medal in the bronze medal game. Artur Silovs has been a huge part of the story. We've got a drill up, a pro drill, all about lateral speed down in tight. It's a 2-part drill with him and Spencer Martin and Marco Terranius, the goaltending development coach of the Vancouver Canucks. That's online at InGoalMag.com. It's a great drill. We've already had other coaches send us video of them doing the drill on the ice this summer and what they like about it. So you can check that out, as well as we got tons of drills with Artur Silovs. So you're watching these guys on the big stage. Chances are we've got articles featuring them at InGoalMag.com, not just featuring them in traditional format, but actually them on the ice and then sharing instruction on how they do things and why. That'll help you become a better goaltender too. So check it all out at InGoalMag.com.
And we love that interaction, don't we, Hutch? All kinds of notes and pictures and reviews and assessments on different things that we talk about. Keep that coming, because it's an awesome and it spurns conversation between us.
For sure. And, one of the first things when somebody sends me a note, whether it's a question based on the podcast or something going on the website, I invariably end up in a bit of a back and forth with them. And it usually starts with, where do you live? What level do you play? Because we want to know these things. We're just hanging out, talking goaltending with fellow goaltenders, even if it's just via email. So you can send a note. We changed the address. It's now info@ingoalmag.com. So not just podcast specific stuff. If you want to ask a question, you want to leave us a comment on what you think of the show or the website, or you just want to talk goaltending, send us a note, info@ingoalmag.com. All three of us will see it, and it would be great.
Awesome stuff. Thanks to Matt, thanks to Cam, and thanks to you for listening this week. And we can't wait to be better next week. There's a lot of dings today, both car dings and Robbie Tallis dings. So we'll talk to you next week on InGoal Radio, the podcast.